it is time for my 2024 HeroesCon recap. In fact, it's way overdue if you ask me. Welcome back to Comics Are Dope. I'm BJ Kicks, and this, as I said, is my recap and haul from HeroesCon 2024, the best Comic-Con, period. I don't care. Argue with your auntie or something. HeroesCon is the greatest Comic-Con in the history of Comic-Cons, and that's that on that, in my opinion. But anyway, a couple weeks ago, I had the opportunity to attend HeroesCon for the third straight year. And I gotta say, this was the best year yet. I attended Friday and Saturday, ended up going home to celebrate Father's Day on Sunday. Still, I feel like I could not have had a better experience, even if I did stay a whole extra day. So this video, I'm going to recap all the stuff I did and got into on Friday, as well as Saturday. And for all you haul watchers, if you wanted to skip to the end to see the haul, you absolutely can. I'm going to show you every book I bought at HeroesCon and every book I got at HeroesCon, because they all weren't purchased. But stick around. You'll see it all. Or, if you're just impatient, you can skip ahead. But hey, it's the journey is the destination, right? Isn't that what they say? That's what coaches would say. Congrats, JJ Redick. Now, let's go ahead and strap in, because this is going to be a long video, and we're going to get right into it. Look, I brought notes. Now, HeroesCon 2024 got started Friday morning. Now, I'm not great at packing. HeroesCon, I actually had just gone on a family vacation the previous week, so you would think all my clothes would be just chilling in a suitcase. No. I bought a bunch of shirts that I wanted to wear to HeroesCon, and I was like, oh, I'll try these out on family vacations, see which fits I'm liking better. I don't know what happened. I couldn't find the clothes from vacation, so I had to buy all new clothes. All that to say, my goal was to arrive in Charlotte at about noon. I wanted to have time to pick up my press badge. I wanted to be able to walk the con floor, get a good lay of the land, see where everybody was, in time enough to get to the first panel I wanted to see on Friday, which was a panel on genre fiction featuring, featuring Greg Rucka, Mark Guggenheim, Stephanie Williams, and Rodney Barnes. Like, that was just an awesome panel, an awesome lineup. And I was like, yo, that's 2/3 of the people I wanted to meet at the con. It's not 2/3. It's 2/5. It's 40% of the people I wanted to meet at the con right there in one panel. Let's do that. And of course, I did not leave my house on time. I should have left Raleigh around, let's say, 8 a.m. if I really wanted to arrive in Charlotte on time after we, deal with, gas and food and all the things. But instead, I pushed it right down to the wire. I didn't park my car at the Charlotte Convention Center until 12:57. And with the panel starting at 1, it's not great. So I raced in, grabbed my press credentials, which included this cool little wristband that says professional. And I was on my way. And I made it to the panel just in time to watch Mark Guggenheim introduce himself. I was on the tail end of Rodney Barnes talking about, his career, how he got into comics. And so I was like, all right, cool. The best takeaway from that panel, by the way, Greg Rucka is hilarious. I had never spoken with Greg Rucka. I'd never listened to a Greg Rucka interview. I know Greg Rucka's got like an acclaimed run on Wonder Woman, and he did Gotham Central, and he's done all sorts of things. I did not know that man was this hilarious. Ask that man about a billionaire, and yeah, just do that. But it was also just a really great conversation. The panel was hosted by a college professor, and he's just asking these questions because he's written comics before. He's had comics or projects canceled before. So he talked about like navigating the space between like doing creator-owned stuff and big two stuff. There was a lot that was said. I really hope that panel was recorded and comes online eventually, because it was really good. I guess I could have filmed it, but I didn't know if that was allowed like that. So my bad, fam. But all in all, a great panel. I was glad that I went because it ended up being the only panel I attended all weekend. But hey, I was there. I even got to take a group photo of all the panelists. And of course, on that panel is my cousin in my head, Stephanie Williams. And so as the panel closed, Stephanie actually led me down to the floor because I was like, yo, where are you tabling at? Where are you at? She's like, I'm actually going there now if you wanted to come along. And so I go down to the floor, stop at Stephanie's table for a quick second. And then, I walk the con floor for the first time. And HeroesCon is massive. It's always been massive. It's going to keep becoming more massive. It's going to be big. It's going to be huge. It's just going to be that way. But there's no way to describe just how much goes on that convention floor. Like there's just so much to see, so much to do, so many people to meet. If you want to shop for comics, you can shop for comics. If you want to meet comic creators, you can meet comic creators. If you wanted to buy original art, you can buy original art. You want to buy toys, you want to see cosplayers. It's got like all of the Comic-Con things in one place. And that place is huge. And if I'm honest, it can be a bit overwhelming, which is why I always decide to try to just walk the floor. Of course, you get this great, program booklet. And in that program booklet, along with having event schedules so you can see all the panels and things, there is also a pretty handy map with all the table numbers and locations. And then, of course, all of the creators that are in the con are listed here. I guess I should turn this light down just a tad. But all the creators are listed here, and you can see what booth they're in. But, every year people get moved around, people get shuffled. And so I don't like to just rely on the book because I feel like I spent a lot of time in years past going to one location and the artist wasn't there. And then, so I just like to just walk around first, get a general idea of where people are. And then I'll refer back to the booklet from time to time just for scheduling purposes and stuff like that. But listen, man, I met Stephanie Williams, went down to the convention floor, and we were off to the races. I caught up with a few friends. Of course, you guys know, anytime I'm at Heroes and Fourth Wall Comics has a presence, I am likely at that table. That is my home base for the con. And since last year, Fourth Wall has expanded. They've joined forces with other creators to form Bequest Studios. And so this time around, I got to hang out with my man Wally McNair and my man Ro Lamb. Ro Lamb writes Scarlet Ranger. Wally McNair actually writes Elton, which is just finished funding on Kickstarter as I'm filming this video. So really, really cool stuff. But fun fact. So before I walked the con, I actually stopped at the Bequest Studios table. And the first thing that happens is this little girl walks up to me and hands me this. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, oh, snap. Oh, what's that? Or who is that? I think that's what I said to the girl. And she goes, I saw you walking and I just wanted to draw you. And I was like, oh, okay. And so this was my first gift at the con. Although I am absolutely certain that little girl did not see me. I don't know who it was she saw, but it couldn't have been me because I had literally just gotten to the convention floor when she handed me this. So shout out to her. I think her name was Kara or Callie. Dang. It's been too long. It's been a week, but shout out to you. I doubt you're watching, but in case you are, really cool. So my convention started with gifts, and that was pretty cool. But anyway, let's get back to my notes because I'm going to forget what happened. So yeah, caught up with some friends. I walked the con floor for a little bit. Gotta mention, my man Javon Stokes from Visually Stoked Media was like 2 tables down, and we chop it up online all the time. So he actually walked up to me and shocked me. Right after that little girl walked away, he scared me from behind. It was just crazy. So anyway, I very quickly got up with the homies, and it was like family reunion. It's what the con felt like, and I really appreciated it. So then I walked the con. As I'm walking the con, I see my man Chris Balga from the World's Finest True Believers podcast and the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. And what I love about Chris is our relationship is just dope. And HeroesCon is so much of what our relationship started with. Because I don't know if you guys even know, but Chris is affiliated with OPB, just like I am. So we're in a group chat. And the first time I was going to HeroesCon, he was like, yo, don't get a hotel, stay at my house. And I was like, that's weird. I don't know you. I'm not staying at your house. And then I stayed at his house and we've been fast friends ever since. And so for the third year in a row, I stayed with my man, Chris, and I was so excited to see him. And I'm like, yo, what you up to? And he's like, I'm actually about to get in line for Daniel Warren Johnson because I actually bought a sketch ticket. So he's going to do a sketch card for me, but I got to get in line by 3:00. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'll catch you later. I walk around a little bit and then I'm like, wait, Daniel Warren Johnson is the guy I wanted to see most at this con that I hadn't met already. I should probably get in this line too. So there I was standing in the Daniel Warren Johnson line for what ultimately became 2 hours. But you guys know, if you follow the channel for any length of time, you know about our late moderator, Skipintosh, who passed away just a year ago yesterday from cancer as I'm filming this. And one of his favorite creators was Daniel Warren Johnson. And just before he got his diagnosis of cancer last year, he told me, he recommended, like, yo, you gotta read Murder Falcon. And I was like, okay, I'll read it. And then, stuff went down. He got sick and told me to read it again. And I was like, all right, I'm going to read this book. And ultimately, we didn't get to talk about it before he passed. I finished reading it after he passed. If you've read Murder Falcon, you know why it's so significant. But if you haven't, I don't want to spoil it. You need to read it. But I was on a mission. I was like, I'm going to get my copy of Murder Falcon signed, the deluxe edition. I was going to try to buy it from D-Dubs at the table. Thankfully, I went away from that plan and just bought it on Amazon ahead of time because he didn't have any copies at his table. But anyway, I waited in line for the 2 hours and got to the front of the line and I showed Daniel this picture of my brother Skip. And I'm like, yo, this is my friend. You were one of his favorites. You met him last year. He told me to read Murder Falcon and he ended up passing away from cancer a year ago. And Daniel stops me. He says, wait, did you talk about this on YouTube? And I was like, yes, I did. And he was like, I saw that. And I was speechless for the rest of the interaction. It just floored me. Not only did he see my video, but he remembered meeting Skip. He was like, yeah, man, I talked to him. We talked about the Warriors versus the Kings. Like, man, he was like, when I saw your video, I didn't put together that it was him that passed. And so he's just talking about how that video impacted him and how the whole story impacted him. And there's this very awkward silence while he's sketching Murder Falcon in my book. And we're both just so emotional. And I'm like trying to find ways to like lighten the mood. Like, well, yeah, I get that's just the power of great storytelling. Thanks for being authentic. And we were both just wrecked. But I was so excited to get my Murder Falcon hardcover sketched and signed by Daniel Warren Johnson. And he even put a tribute to Skip in the book. I'll show it to you later. It's part of the haul. It's in there. But that, of course, ended up being the highlight of my Friday. And to be real, the convention in general. So after those 2 hours standing in the D-Dubs line, it's 5:00. I'm tired. So I sat down at the table, at the bequest table. I started selling comics for Wally and Roe, interacting with the people, just enjoying myself, catching up with friends. And, after the con is over that day, before I did that, I actually did some more walking around. I got to meet with Trevor Fernandez Linkevich, as well as Ryan Best, who are the writer and artist team behind this book called Rise. If you listen to the last episode of the podcast, that's who I interviewed. And Rise is available on Kickstarter right now. I actually got to see physical copies of the book. That was really cool. It's always cool to catch up with creators that you've developed a rapport with. At least if you do what I do, I try to make connections with people, like real connections. So to have conversations offline that stay offline is just refreshing. But it was really cool to meet Trevor and Ryan. After I met Trevor and Ryan and told them about my experience with D-Dubs, that's when I went and sat at the bequest table with the homies and just honestly chilled until it was time to close the con. Of course, Friday night was game 4 of the NBA finals. We know the outcome of those finals and we know the outcome of game 4. I was hoping to see a sweep. And so we went to Buffalo Wild Wings to watch the game. Ultimately, we only watched half of the game, and the service at Buffalo Wild Wings was just, let's call it less than stellar. I don't know. Maybe it was a busy night. It was the finals and, a lot of stuff going on. There was a convention in town. But what's crazy is I went outside to take a phone call from my wife. And while I'm outside, I'm looking into the restaurant through all the glass, and I'm realizing there's like nobody in this restaurant. There's no reason for this service to be this bad. But it was really cool just hanging out with, again, Wally and Ro from Bequest, as well as Javon from Visually Stoked Media. And I just met Javier Cruz, who is an illustrator I wasn't familiar with, but he was with the crew. And we just had a great time debating about comics, debating about basketball, and whether or not Jason Tatum has a signature move, whether or not Kyrie is better than AI. We talked about a lot of cool stuff. So it was fun just unwinding from the night at Buffalo Wild Wings. Ultimately, I left at halftime. That game was out of hand, and Boston won the championship like 2 days later. But that was the end of my Friday. The homies decided to go to the chat and draw or drink and draw. And I decided to not. So I went home to the Balga residence and decided to go to sleep to do it all again the next day. Now, what's really cool about conventions, at least for me, is I always have like a specific priority when I go. The first year I went, I was like, I'm going to get Chris Claremont's. I'm going to get as many signatures in my X-Men Mutant Massacre Omnibus as possible. That was the goal for year 1. Year 2, I was supposed to be interviewing people. That's what was supposed to happen. Ended up getting some unfortunate news, and it just kind of put me in a funk. In fact, the unfortunate news I got last year was that Skip's health was declining in ways I didn't know before. He ended up passing like a week later. But then year 3, this year, the same goal kind of applied. I want to meet as many people as possible. I want to shoot some content from the floor of the con. I want to interview people. I want to get out of my shell. Oh, just straight up, like, if I'm not talking to a camera, I'm probably not talking. I don't like coming up to people. I don't like introducing myself to people. I don't like the sort of, presumptuous feeling that comes with, hey, I have a YouTube channel. Can we do an interview? Can you say something? Like, I just don't like any of that. So talking to comic creators is difficult for me outside of like email bounds. But thankfully, I had a lot of friends at HeroesCon that were helping me with just that. I got to give a huge shout out to Stephanie Williams for making a bunch of introductions because she didn't have to do that. But let's just talk about Saturday. I walked the convention floor. I have a goal to meet David Finch. He's the only person on my list of people I wanted to meet that I didn't meet. Because after the Daniel Warren Johnson experience, I was like, I saw the line for David Finch and I was like, I don't have another one of those in me. And there's no way David Finch is matching the experience I just had with Daniel Warren Johnson. I will catch up with him another time, or if the line ever dies down, and ultimately it didn't. At least I never saw it. But with that sort of out of the way, I was like, all right, I'm just going to meet as many people as possible. Saturday's going to be my last day at the con. So I want to just make the most of it. I want to see everything. So I went out to the far corner, saw the cosplay, all that stuff, and that was cool. But let's just talk about some of the creators that I met and got a chance to talk to. So Dave Chisholm, who is the writer and artist behind Miles Davis and the Search for the Sound. We spoke for like 30 minutes before the con opened up to the public on Saturday morning. That was really cool. We were supposed to like actually do some stuff on camera, but we just ended up talking about the Milwaukee Bucks, not the Milwaukee Bucks, the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the history of jazz and what's appropriation versus participation. A great conversation that I promise we are going to dive deeper into on the podcast at some point. But other people that I met for the first time this year, there were a lot. So again, thanks to Stephanie Williams, I met Ryan Oakley, Asia Simone, who is the artist on the Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur Wreck and Roll graphic novel. I met Greg Ellisay through my man Javon Stokes. I met Damian Becton, who we developed a rapport offline, but I was like, yo, I got to come to your table. So I went, saw him. I saw Patrick Foreman of Black Cotton fame. I got to have a really cool conversation with Larry Hama. I just had to tell him like, yo, Christopher Priest loves you. And I talked to Christopher Priest and he told me personally that he loves you. So I had to tell him. I met Josh Greathouse. I needed to meet Josh Greathouse. Shout out to you, Josh. I met Ray Anthony Height. I saw old friends, my man Omari Malik from Blacktooth Publishing. I met Rodney Barnes, which had a really cool conversation. Well, I was part of a really cool conversation with Rodney Barnes. Someone asked him like, hey, what are some good blaxploitation movies to show? So I started throwing suggestions out. As he was throwing suggestions out, he's like, oh yeah, man. So that was really fun. And I got to tell him that Philadelphia #1 was my favorite debut issue that I've read ever. And so he was excited about that. And he was also excited about the Image First program. So there's that. So I met a lot of comic creators, had a lot of really cool conversations. Not only did I meet comic creators, I got to see a bunch of my YouTube friends. So shout out to DJ Lynx and the Comics Curing Cancer crew, the whole crew. DJ Lynx, Rob Fat Stacks, Legion of Comics, although I didn't meet Mark from Legion of Comics. He wasn't at the table at the time, but I did get to meet his dad, Pops Attic, and we had a really cool conversation about Neil Adams and just great con experiences. My man Jigs from North Carolina as well. My man Larry, Philly born 21. Yo, it's always great seeing you, and I always see you at HeroesCon. This man was on a mission. He was out there buying grails. DJ Lynx bought a grail. That man bought Amazing Fantasy 15. Baller. Crazy. I even got to meet some members of the Dope Fiends community on Discord. So shout out to Renee. Shout out to Rick Howard. There were several people that came up to me and were like, yo, I watch your videos all the time. And I was just like, yo, thank you. I appreciate that. That was crazy. So that was my HeroesCon. I walked the floor, met a bunch of people, had awesome conversations. If anything, HeroesCon 2024 felt like a family reunion. And I desperately needed a good experience at HeroesCon, because the last two had been bittersweet. Like nothing against the con, just outside circumstances that always kind of soured my experience. This year, it was amazing. Now, let's get into the haul. Let's get into all the stuff that I got this year at HeroesCon. Let's start it off with a book that I didn't buy at HeroesCon. I had this already, but I wanted to get it signed by Stephanie Williams. This is The Strange and Unsung All-Stars of the DC Multiverse. Had to get my copy signed, and I did just that. So, really cool stuff. The stack is going to get crazy. But speaking of Stephanie Williams, I also grabbed the Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur Wreck and Roll graphic novel. Written by Stephanie Williams, art by Asia Simone, who I also met at the con. Of course, I got my book signed by both. Why buy a book at a con if you're not going to get it signed? Don't do that. So it even came with this pretty cool bookmark. So that was dope. I appreciated that. And one thing that I knew I was going to buy ahead of time was this. This is The Adventures of Beeble. It's written by a pretty young comic book writer and artist whose name is Micah Williams. Micah, of course, being the son of Stephanie Williams and a very talented young man. last 2 years in a row, I've seen Micah at the con. He's always sketching and selling his sketches. And so I bought this, The Adventures of Beeble. Beeble is a character that looks something like Kirby, but nothing like Kirby, in case any copyright people are watching. But ultimately, Beeble's on a quest. I mean, he's doing all sorts of stuff. He's playing basketball. He's cruising for a bruising. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on. I have to finish this book, but I enjoyed it. And again, Beeble 2 coming soon. Go readers, go. You can't see that. This light is washing it all out, but there we go. So Adventures of Beeble. I grabbed that. I needed that. Cause I had to be one of Micah's first supporters. So there's that. Speaking again of Trevor Fernandez Linkevich and Ryan Best, I got Rise issue number 1. Rise being a superhero story about a hero that has to feel good in order to do good. And when you hear that basic premise, it sounds like it could be a little risque. While there is like one love scene in the book, it's not a book made for shock value purposes or anything like that. But I bought it because there is a 4-page spread in here. It's a 1, 2, 3 page fold out spread, but not just the one side, the other side too. Like, how crazy is that? Anyway. So I've seen indie comics. I've seen Kickstarter comics. I've backed plenty. I've helped to sell plenty or fund plenty, but I have not seen a Kickstarter comic that has been as adventurous as this, as far as like doing different things in printing and the quality, the printer they used. Like, most of the time, these people are going through like these sort of third-party printers. And I mean, they're all third parties, but you'll see like some of the same stuff. You'll see ads for the printer in the book. There's none of that here. This honestly feels as good, in some ways better than a Big 2 book. So that was really cool. Shout out to Pocket Watch Press, and go ahead and back the campaign for issue 2 of Rise. You'll be mad if you don't. I'm telling you. Anyway, speaking of, I also grabbed this. This is Minutes to Midnight. This is an anthology, also written by Trevor Fernandez Linkevich. There is a story, a short story in here with art by Ryan Best. There's a story in here where Alan Moore shows up as a character. Really cool stuff. In fact, I have more than one copy because the autograph on one of these copies got smudged. So one of these will be a future giveaway whenever I'm doing giveaways again. So be on the lookout for that. Let's see. These I got on the way out of the con, so I'll talk about those later. Again, this year was about meeting as many people as possible, making genuine connections with people. Somebody I've made a genuine connection with at previous cons is my man Rico Renzi, who you might remember got a very cool shout out on the very first episode of Comics Are Dope, the podcast, from my man Skip and Tosh. And Rico runs No Longer Mint. He just does like these fun pop culture graphic designs, including this, Martin the Manhunter. So just fun mashups and stuff like this. You'll remember that this design was on the shirt that Skip was wearing in that video interview with Justin Greenwood. So when I saw this, I had to buy the zine, the I Don't Get It zine, which is just a collection of some of those puns and double entendres. There's Craven the Hunter with Garfield's pelt that he's wearing, Lethal Weapon X, Judge Judy instead of Judge Dredd. Like, just funny pop culture mashups. Marge Nito. Anyway, shout out to Rico. Rico's always cool. And Rico met my daughter at the last con we were at. I met Rico's daughter at this con. So that was fun. Next up, actually, I'll talk about this one first. So this is Nia Griggs and the Comedic Sisterhood of Science. Now, the way I found this book was super, super dope. A guy walks up to me and he's like, "Hey, my name's Carlton." That's Carlton Hargrove from 20th Place Media. Carlton's like, "Yo, BJ." And this is funny because I'm standing at Stephanie Williams' table just talking about some of the struggles as content creators that we go through, right? This dude walks up to me. He's like, yo, BJ, I watch your videos all the time. By the way, I've got something for you because I know you like family-friendly books. So here is Nia Griggs and the Comedic Sister of the Science. It's kind of sci-fi. It's got like family stuff. I know you love all that. So check it out. And I was like, I'm floored because he clearly watched the channel enough to even speak to my comic tastes and give me a book. So I'm actually really, really excited to dig into this. The art looks really cool. Let's see. Pencils and inks are by Richard Kahan Brown. It's written by Carlton Hargrove and Derek Hargrove, who I assume are brothers. But this just looks like a really cool book. I'm excited to dig into it. And this is actually issue number 2. So that means once I do read it, I'm going to have to go back and read issue 1 and find out whatever else is available. But that was exciting. Another person that I ran into, of course, is my man Damian Becton, who you may know as the writer of Worlds Away. Speaking of Worlds Away, I got issues 1, 2, 3, and 4. He actually had these double issues that you could buy. And he's like, yo, name your price and take whatever book. And so I gave him $20 for the $20 worth of books that I picked up on the table. And he's like, nah, man. I got to give you some money back. And so he gave me back some money. And I was like, I appreciate the discount, man, but you didn't have to do that. But turns out we have a whole lot in common, including an affinity for the G-Unit member, Young Buck. So shout out to my man, Damien. Expect to hear him on the podcast soon as well. And Worlds Away, it's also like a sci-fi thing with a mother and daughter team. So really cool, kind of sci-fi, kind of fantasy, but very, very interesting. It's Damian Becton, and the art is by Christian Prunesti and Marco Del Forno. So very cool stuff there. I'm excited to get into that. More stuff. My man Roland is the writer of Scarlet Ranger. I somehow have never purchased Scarlet Ranger, so I fixed that. And here's Scarlet Ranger number 1. I should have bought issue 2. It had a really cool variant cover. I don't know why I didn't buy it. I forgot about it. And now I'm not at the con anymore. So now I got to hit up Ro and be like, yo, let me get that one though. That one. Anyway, Scarlet Ranger. About this dude who inherits the title Scarlet Ranger from his grandfather. Why not his father? I don't know. Probably got to check out the book to find out. But you know, I love a book with a good young lead, and this is that. So there's that. Now, another creator I met this year was Greg Anderson Elise. Greg, who you may know because he's the guy who created Is Nana the Were Spider. If I'm not mistaken, Is Nana is the son of Anansi the Spider, the African trickster god. And listen, I love a good reference to Anansi. I don't know why. When I was a kid, this woman came to our daycare and told us the story of Anansi the Spider. So anytime I see Anansi in fiction, whether it's Junie Ba doing references to Anansi in Black Panther, whether it's Greg Anderson Elise, I don't care. Even Anansi boys from Neil Gaiman and Mark Bernard and folks. When I see Anansi, I typically buy Anansi. And this is Nana the Were Spider. These are 2 one-shots that will eventually be collected in what will be volume 3 of Is Nana the Were Spider. So this is Nana, the Ballads of Rawhead and John Henry. Very dope. And this one is Birthday Day from Greg and George Gant. So very, very cool. I'm excited about this. Just realized there's a business card there. So let's move that. And yeah, I'm excited again to hopefully have Greg on the podcast as well pretty soon. Now, another place I stopped by, the Comics Curing Cancer booth. After I'd spent all the money I was going to spend at the con, I had a couple dollars left. Actually, I had $1 single bill left. And with that, I decided to shop in the 2 for $1 bin at the C3 booth. And, you know, that dollar went to cancer research. And so the books I bought with that dollar, Static, Shadows of Dakota, issue number 4, the Akira homage variant. 50 cents. You cannot buy this book anywhere for 50 cents. But I did. So there's that. Also, Nubia and the Amazons, issue number 1. This is, yes, prelude to Trial of the Amazons. So there was Nubia and the Amazons, then like Nubia Queen of the Amazons. I feel like there's 2 Nubia series, and I can't remember which one came first. I want to say this one came first because this one still has Vita Ayala on it. Stephanie Williams did one her own after the fact. So anyway, again, I bought this. I didn't see Stephanie after I bought this, or I would have got this one signed. I should have done that. But anyway, more stuff. More stuff that I bought. Again, I got to meet Great House. I told you guys about Bang. I've got a review of Bang coming soon, but I had to grab the mini comics of Bang. So little digest size trade paperbacks. This is Bang Volume 1 and Volume 2, collecting chapters 1 through 4 and 5 through 8 of Bang. Again, we're going to talk about this fairly soon because Bang is up to like 19. We're going to talk about Bang soon because Bang is up to like 19 chapters on Webtoon. So yeah, we gotta do the review. We gotta talk about it. Love this art though. And the flat colors, just love it. I don't know why I like flat coloring in comics so much. Just works really well. The last thing I bought. Oh wait, we can't talk about the last thing because I still got other things. So when I'm sitting there talking to my man Damian Becton, we're just talking about Comic Cons and meeting creators, and you didn't know they existed or you didn't know what they looked like. And he's like, yeah, like I'm sitting next to Matthew Roberts and I didn't realize he was like that Matthew Roberts. And Matthew was sitting right there and he's laughing about it. And I was like, yo, by the way, let me go ahead and grab this. This is Creature from the Black Lagoon Lives, issue number 1, written by Ram V and Dan Waters, with art by Matthew Roberts. I want to say colors by Dave Stewart. Yeah, Dave Stewart's the colorist and DC Hopkins is the letterer. I don't really do like horror stuff, but I don't know. You got an artist sitting next to you. You buy their art. Plus, this book was only going for cover price. Usually at cons, everything is marked up. If a book costs $5 on the street, it is $10 in the con because, man, these creators got to eat. So I feel you, but I bought this because it was only cover price. $5? Yes, please. Signed by the artist? Of course. So, Creature from the Black Lagoon Lives. I should probably put that in a bag and board before I just put in a stack of stuff behind me. This is the last thing I bought at the con. This was a print. This is a print by Jason Horn, and it is Bluey. I called it Bluey's Dark Knight when I asked him for it. I don't know what the actual name of this piece of art is, but it's Bluey and Bingo and Dad all dressed as Batman and Robin. By the way, did you know Bluey's a girl? I didn't know Bluey was a girl. I guess I don't watch enough Bluey. I kind of only know the theme song. But anyway, when I saw this, I was like, oh, Squeak is going to love that. And I like Batman, so let's do it. And of course, when I came home and Squeak saw this, she goes, oh, it's Bingo. I don't know why she associates, like, she doesn't say Bluey. She never says Bluey. It's always Bingo. But anyway, besides the point. So that's pretty much all the stuff I bought at the con, except one big item. I'm going to show this off real quick because as I'm leaving the con Saturday, this old lady is like, she's at the little station where they're checking all the cosplay weapons. And she's like, hey, you don't want to take any free comics? So I grabbed one and she's like, no, you don't want to take like all of them? And I was like, okay. So I grabbed like this huge stack of iBots. And I don't know anything about iBots except that, yeah, I don't even know this creative team. I'm not familiar. This is clearly like some 90s comic stuff. And what's funny is the sign on them said, free to take, but not for kids. And I was like, oh, I don't think I'm going to take these because they said they're not for kids. And she's like, no. I took out all the stuff that wasn't for kids because I didn't think it was appropriate for anybody to see. So I was like, I don't know who made this lady like the sheriff of these comics, but I'm glad she enforced it. And she gave me a bunch of iBots. Sorry to anybody who was behind me and wanted iBots. She told me to take all of them, so I took all but like 5. Anyway, I told you guys I wanted to show you this. This is my copy of Murder Falcon. I already had it before the con. I didn't buy it at the con, but before I went to the con, it did not have this sketch in it. This Murder Falcon sketch, this sketch of Murph. The inscription says, "To Brandon and to Skip, RIP my brother, D-Dubs, June 2024. This book was absolutely the highlight of my convention. And it's not even close. There's nothing that was going to top this experience for me, which is why I'm glad I made the most and decided to just meet people and make real connections as opposed to going and trying to get books signed. Cause this is it, man. Anyway, I didn't even think to ask Daniel Warner Johnson to join the channel at any point. It wasn't about that. So if you're watching, I'd also love to have you. We can talk about this book and the new books you got coming and the Space Mullet reprints and all the things. But whether or not that ever happens, you got a fan for life over here. Now, the last book I'm going to show you had to be the last book because it is huge. But there was one thing I was very curious about at this con, and that was, what is it going to look like with just the family of Ed Piskor being there? I didn't know if that was going to be a crazy section of the con, because if you've been to Heroes in years past, the cartoonist kayfabe table is always popping. I never met Ed Piskor or Jim Rugg because that line was always popping, and I was kind of intimidated, if I'm honest with you. Just the presence online was just huge in that way. But when I found out his family was going to be there, and when the missus surprised me with a heftier than normal budget to spend at HeroesCon, I was like, okay, if the line is quiet, I want to go pay my respects and support the family, because regardless of how you feel about the circumstances leading to Ed Piskor's death, the fact is his family's got to sit and pick up the pieces. It's only been 2 months, and they've got to figure out how they're going to live life without their son, brother, uncle. And I just wanted to play a small part in helping sort of ease that. And so I bought the biggest thing I could buy at that table. It's in this box. This box is huge. But as you can see, this says it's the Ed Piskor Studio Edition. And, this is a poster from Remember by Patrick Foreman. It's signed. I got it from Damian Becton because Patrick told him to give it to me. So there's that. Shout out to you, Patrick. But this book, the Ed Piskor Studio Edition, there's no way I'm going to be able to get it all on camera. This book is massive. It's a big artist edition. I've had artist editions in the past. You saw me do the Jim Lee artist edition. This feels bigger than that. Maybe I'm tripping, but here it is. The Ed Piskor Studio Edition. You guys know that as far as Ed Piskor comics are concerned, there's not a ton that I've actually ever read. The one Ed Piskor comic that I read and fell in love with is called Hip Hop Family Tree. And this artist edition is basically a Hip Hop Family Tree artist edition. There's other stuff in here, but most of what's in here is work from the Hip Hop Family Tree. And there's no way I'm ever going to be able to afford a piece of original art from that book. This is going to be the closest thing. And not only does it have a bunch of original art, but it's got annotations and notes from Ed about what certain things were meant to be like. When Ed passed away, I was like, oh man, I kind of want this book. And it skyrocketed on eBay. I think Fantagraphics kind of rushed another printing out, so you can still get this book for about $150, which is the cover price. For this, I paid $200 to the family of Ed Piskor, and I'm not mad at that price at all. I was happy to give them that money. And there were only 3 of these available at the table, and I bought one. I think I bought the second out of 3. So I was really excited to be able to support the family in that way. Listen, I don't know where that money's going, if it had to cover plane ticket or food or what, but I wanted to show support for Ed's family, because he was a staple at HeroesCon. I don't know. Some of Ed's art is off-putting to me. This fell right in my wheelhouse But regardless of anything, he was a real dude with a real family and real loved ones. And so I wanted to support them, and I did. So this was the only huge purchase I made at HeroesCon. All the other stuff I bought was like $10 here, $20 there. This is the only thing that came close to $100. And in fact, it doubled $100. But again, I was happy to do it. So that was my vlog and haul from HeroesCon. I hope you enjoy watching it. This has been a long one. Hey, it happens sometimes, but HeroesCon 2023 or 2024 was amazing. 1 second. HeroesCon 2025, the dates have been announced. It will be June 20th, 21st, and 22nd of 2025. We're finally getting it off of Father's Day weekend, which means there's an even greater likelihood that I'm going to attend. So be on the lookout. Grab your tickets. They're not on sale yet. Tickets aren't on sale yet, but you can start planning your hotel stays, your lodge, your flights, all that. HeroesCon is the con you want to go to. If the footage and me recapping it didn't tell you, there's nothing else that's going to convince you. You just got to see it for yourself. And hopefully I'll see you there. Till then, stay safe, stay awesome, and read something dope today. Peace.
I don't think I've ever seen anybody in a 10th anniversary costume.
Yo, it's the best one. People don't recognize drip. They're like, oh, the sweater. Nah. John, come on, man.
Right.
Don't see this? Like, come on, man.
No, that's dope.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Thank you.